morning, everyone. Y'all are such a lively bunch tonight, so I'm so excited and thankful y'all have come out to support Miss Diane Gusick. She will be presenting on a multitude of things, but mainly about astrology, what that means for you, and if you came here thinking of a family or a friend and their birthday, you might get to know a little bit about them too. So today, her presentation is called Astrology, As Above, So Below. Please help me in welcoming Diane.
First of all, can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you. I did not expect such an interest, so I can only promise you that at the end of the evening you're going to know a lot more about astrology than you already probably do. I was torn between two titles, actually, As Above, So Below. And then for the skeptics, I thought maybe I should call it Maybe There's Something to This. Astrologers, and I was an astrologer for many years, astrologers believe that the moment that you're born, there is a map that can be drawn showing the heavens, showing the zodiacal signs, showing the planets, and everything angled to the earth. It's actually a science of geometry. It is not causative. We don't believe that what's going on in the heavens causes you to do anything. But we do think that it is a precise mirror image of every single thing about you. Your personality, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your obstacles, and ultimately events that happen in your life. When I started to study astrology, I did not believe this. And most of my fairly intelligent friends said, what are you doing? In January of 1970, I lived in New York City, but not in Manhattan. And in the New Yorker magazine, there was an article about a man who was teaching astrology. I have always felt that I was so typical of my sign, and I wanted to check it out. I was, at that point, on leave from teaching high school English. I taught mostly to delinquent kids. I loved my job. I loved my kids, and I most definitely expected to go back to it. Driving into Manhattan from where I lived was maybe between 40 minutes and over an hour, depending on the traffic. I had never driven to Manhattan before. That was my husband's job. It was very gutsy of me to do this, and gutsy I was not. I thought at first, and for many months I think, that learning about the human personality seen through the eyes of astrology was simply interesting. It was fascinating. I certainly didn't think there was anything major to it that would shake my foundation. And then I learned predictive work. And all my friends who were still poo-pooing what I was doing volunteered for me to tell them what was in their chart. Two examples. One was a couple that we went out with often. He was a doctor, she was a sculptress, they were young, we were young at the time too. And we thought they had a happy marriage. And I did her chart, and I said to my husband, they're going to be separated within 2 months. They will not reconcile, they're going to have a divorce. And it happened, and I am ashamed to tell you I was so excited that it happened because it meant that astrology was right, that I had to hold myself back from saying it to them. But the second example was one that I didn't understand at the time, and I hope you'll feel it with me as I talk about it. But I did a chart for a man that I didn't know well. I knew he was married. He was part of a group I was in, and he among other people, volunteered to have me do his chart. And I looked at his chart. Again, I knew he was in a long-term marriage, but it certainly looked like he had separated from a long-term partner about 2 years previously. And I said that to him, and he smiled and he said, "You can ask people about it. There was a separation. It wasn't with my wife, and I have ways of dealing with that." It made a very deep impression on me that he had ways of dealing with that, because I most certainly knew that I didn't have any ways to deal with that. When I was in college, in addition to studying English, because I taught English, I had minored in science. So I was very familiar with the scientific method. It had been drilled into my head. You have variables, you put them in a lab, and you test. And if you can get the same results over and over again, it's a yes. And you also have to be able to say it's a no if you're not getting those variables back with consistency. It became clear to me that astrology wasn't going to afford me that opportunity, because there are so many variables, and you will see that in just a few minutes. The astrological chart is an imprint of a moment in time. It's a picture of where the planets were against the background of the zodiac as it angles to the Earth from the perspective of Earth. There will not be a quiz, just try to follow along as I'm saying this. In the 1960s, sun sign astrology became very popular. And if you look at those dates, that's sun sign astrology. What it really means is this is the part of the zodiac that the sun was in at the moment that you were born. It's important. It's one aspect of maybe, 250, maybe more aspects, but it's important because where the sun is always shows you how you organize your life, how you do your life, not just by personality, but by style and comfort zone. So people could relate to it, and newspapers picked up astrological columns and magazines for quite a few years. I wrote the astrological column for Mademoiselle magazine. Those columns did not do astrology any favors, because it totally oversimplifies what you will come to see is complicated. So before I speak about the signs, I want to tell you how we get to the meaning of the signs. And again, there won't be a quiz, but try to feel what I'm saying. Astrologers believe in 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water. The fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Think about the element of fire. It's warm, it's outgoing, there are no limits, it burns, it just goes. It's a very instinctual element. Earth. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And if you think about the earth as compared to fire, it's an entirely different feeling. Earth people tend to be practical, hardworking, cautious. They're involved with the physical sense world. And then there's air. And if you think about airwaves, air communicates. Air collects and disseminates knowledge. Air can be intellectual, but it's always concerned with ideas and always concerned with movement. And people with a lot of air in their charts tend to move about locally a lot and also across the world a lot. And then there are the water signs. The water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And again, if you think about the element of water, if you so much as drop a pebble into the element of water, it disturbs the whole stream, the whole lake, ultimately the whole ocean. So we look at the fire, earth, water, air as an indicator of what a sign is. We also break the signs into cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal signs are outgoing, they are goal-oriented, they start their own energy system. Fixed signs tend to be fixed. They are stubborn signs. Each one, as you'll hear specifically, has a slightly different tinge than the others, but they tend to be fixed. And the third are the mutable signs, and mutable, they are restless people. They are very adaptable, but sometimes wherever they are, they think they should be someplace else, and they're always on the move. The double signs, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces, are frequently pulled in two directions. And lastly, we divide them into masculine and feminine. And the masculine signs are your extroverted people, and the feminine signs are your introverted people, and everyone has all of the signs in their chart. It's just that some of them are highlighted depending on where the planets are. But we're going to start with sun signs because everybody knows their birthday. And again, the entire nature of a person filters through this. It is the driving force of the personality. So almost all of you will recognize your sun sign. It's the way you go about doing life, unless it's thwarted, but you still have that energy, it just may be held down. One thing that may be frustrating to those of you, and I'm one of them, that's born on a cusp. If you're born around the 21st or the 20th, if you're born on a cusp, each year the sun comes back into alignment with the earth at in a 360-degree circle. It might come back a day or two early or a day or two late. So if you're born on a cusp, you will know, based on what I'm saying, which sign you actually are. So I'm going to start with Aries. Unless you're very shy, it will help if you own up to your sign. How many people in the room are Aries? Interesting. Wouldn't have guessed. Okay. Aries people, again, you're dealing with Aries. It is masculine, cardinal, fire. And what does that translate into? These are independent people. They are our energy bunnies. They are always on the go. For the most part, they're courageous. They are initiators. They don't like routine, but they often are the spark for a whole new project that other people will follow through on. They can be pioneers in their personal life. They speak their mind. They're not always tactful. They do not mean to say something that might insult you, and they do not mean to knock you over as they're getting to wherever they're going. They are just focused on whatever it is that they're doing. They like adventure, they're action-oriented, they're usually not introspective. They are the doers of the zodiac. Negatively, they have to learn not to knock people down the stairs. Sometimes they do have to learn tact. They can have a short fuse. If Aries blows or gets upset about something, they will not hold it. 2 minutes later, it is out of their mind. They're on to their next project. Bear with me on this. Astrologers believe that we can see physical manifestation from all the signs. It's not always the sign that you're born under. But if I look at someone and they really look like, I think to myself, that sign is strong in their chart. Aries people tend to have exaggerated eyebrows. It's more obvious in men than women because women tend to reshape their eyebrows. They often have ruddy skin. They have a long stride when they walk. Get out of their way. The next sign is entirely different. It's a whole different field. Taurus is roughly April 21st to May 20th. I was married to a Taurus for 60 years, so of course I think I'm an expert. But Taurus people are the Rock of Gibraltar. They are dependable, they are reliable, they are patient, they are determined, they will sit you out. If you have a different idea, they are stubborn. They have a very strong feeling for security. They have a very strong feeling and are usually good with money and banking and all things that are financial. They get their security from their possessions, and they like things that are tangible. Taurus is fixed, stubborn, earth. They want possessions. They're not to show it off. They're comfortable with possessions, with things, with mind, but tangible things that you can hold in your hand. Taurus people often have a beautiful speaking voice and often have a great sensitivity to music. Obviously, you can have Taurus someplace else in your chart other than your sun and have these things. An astrologer is trained to see that. But right now, I'm just talking about the sun sign. Negatively, they can be very stubborn. They can be not open to new opinions unless they want to be. And they can be sluggish and possessive depending on what's going on. Taurus people tend to be thick-set. They're an earth sign. I feel like they walk close to the ground. They have thick necks. They're very solid citizens. Taurus sign, who are the Taurus signs? Yours surprised me, you know that though. Oh, and I'm surprised about you too, so who knew? The next sign over is, again, not only think about your own birth sign, but think about people that you know, because it will give you a broader base. The next sign over is the sign of Gemini, roughly between May 21st and June 20th. Gemini's in the room? A lot of people aren't fessing up unless you're all at the end of the zodiac. Okay. Your Geminis are usually, Gemini is mutable air. They are open to many different ideas. They're flexible. They're restless. They're great talkers. They're good with words. They're usually clever. They're adaptable. Sometimes when I go to a doctor's office and I see him seeing one patient after another, I think to myself, I hope he has a lot of mutable signs. Because they have to be alive to this and to this and to this, and Gemini is naturally that. They are adaptable, they are changeable, and in their lifetime they often have more of one than most people have. One of something. Gemini is one of the signs that needs more than one. A negative Gemini can rattle on too much, yada, yada. But that's a negative use of the sign. A positive Gemini is just a wonderful communicator, but needs to communicate with many different people. They are on the go. They need to learn sometimes to focus their mind. They need to learn sometimes to be determined. Gemini long enough, they look a little bit like monkeys. They have this cute, puckish face. Again, you need to be an astrologer to see it, but if someone has Gemini strong on the chart, you see this cute, puckish, monkeyish kind of look. Gemini tends to be youthful even into old age, so it's a sweet sign to be born under if you care about that sort of thing. How many people are Cancers in the room? The tender ones. No Cancer? Yeah, okay. Cancer is maybe the most maternal and nurturing of all the signs, and it really doesn't make any difference if you're a man or a woman. A strong Cancer impress in the chart is a nurturer, a caretaker. They are protective. They are extremely sensitive. Cancers, certainly young Cancers, cry at the drop of a hat. As we mature, we sometimes learn to hide those feelings, but Cancer is a tender, self-protective sign. The sign of the symbol for Cancer is the crab, and they have a hard outer shell and very soft meat inside. They have a remarkable memory. They do not forget much. They are imaginative, they're changeable. Usually the mother plays an important role in their life. They love to look after people. The negative aspect, what they need to learn, is not to be overly sensitive. They can be super touchy and decide that their feelings are facts, and a wonderful thing for Cancers and probably for all of us to learn, but feelings are not facts. But Cancer really takes their feelings and can shut down for a long time so they feel safe enough to come out. They can be brooders, they can be clingy. They need to learn independence. I think of all the signs, Cancer is the most easy to spot physically. They usually have very pale white skin and a high forehead. They're moon-faced. They're often fleshy. More than any sign, I think they are the easiest to spot when it's strong in the chart. How many Leos are in the room? Oh, I am so surprised with so many of these. Okay. I think there are more Leos than are showing themselves, but I have no way of knowing that. The sign of Leo, they are a ray of sunshine. They are joyful. They are fixed fire. So you've got the warmth of fire, the outgoingness of fire. But you also have, with the sign of Leo, I am the king, I am the queen, I am a child, let's play. So you have two sides of that sign. They are very playful. They are effortlessly at the head of their group. Wherever the sign of Leo is strong, they are the leaders. And they want to be the leaders. They're often very creative. They're often found in the arts. They're usually center stage, whether it's part of a small group or whether it's an actual production. The sign of Leo is a very generous sign. They live life on a big scale. If a Leo throws a party, it's the biggest party. Leo really does things on a grand scale. They are confident. If they have any pitfall, it's that they don't just bask in the attention, and they don't just get the attention, because they usually do. But the pitfall and the learning is they need attention. And so if they don't get attention, they can really not feel very good about themselves. And that's part of their learning. They need to learn cooperation, they need to learn humility, but usually they're too busy having fun to learn very much. I think, again, this is not coming from my head. This is what the books have said. In the beginning I didn't see it, and now my eye sees it. I think that someone who manifests Leo, if you see them from the back, they have very wide shoulders that narrow down to their bottom. So if you are a Leo and that's what you look like, now you know why. The next sign is the sign of Virgo. Virgos in the room? You're in good company. I'm a Virgo too. But we are a serious bunch by and large. Virgos usually are bookish. They are the perfectionists of the zodiac, not because they're mean or nitpicking, but because their sense of inadequacy is compensated by being perfect in everything, not just that they do, but that everyone around them does. They want everyone to be perfect so that then they can feel secure. So sometimes we can be nitpickers, especially when we're young. They are wonderful organizers. If you run any kind of a business, you want both a Virgo and a Capricorn in your accounting department because they will make lists and they will make sure everything gets done and perfectly. There's often an interest in health in the Virgo personality. They're often readers, they're often writers. Negatively, obviously, they can be too critical of themselves, of somebody else. Virgo follows the rules. They can be standoffish. A whole group of people can be going out to play, and Virgo's sitting at home reading a book. Physically, it's claimed that some Virgos have widow's peaks. I have to say that not only don't I have one, but I've never noticed it in Virgos, but that's what the books do say. Sometimes there's a limp. Usually they're youthful in their appearance into old age, along with Gemini and some of the other signs. Are there Libras in the room? Okay. Thank you. Because I know my own chart, I am a Virgo, but I have so much Libra in the chart that I also identify with that. And many of you, if you knew your chart, would know a whole lot more than your sun sign. Libra is opposite of Aries, so there's a polarity there. There's sometimes an attraction there. But whereas Aries is out there, straight to a goal, Libra is waiting for special friends, a special partner. If Gemini, air, if Gemini is all over the place and will talk to anyone and really enjoys it, Libra, also air, but now cardinal air, prefers to have one or two or three close friends that they really need to talk to. So partnership is important to the Libra personality. They can be gullible, they can be idealistic. The hard part about having a lot of Libra in your chart or being a Libra is it's really hard to make a decision. You don't want to go shopping with a Libra because on the one hand, but on the other hand, things can take a very long time. Libra can be instinctively a people pleaser. It's one of the big lessons for Libra to learn how to say no when they mean no. They can see all sides of an issue. All sides of an issue. They don't deal well with anger or sharp words. They're not sensitive like the water signs, but they just don't deal well with words that aren't expressed beautifully. It's a sign that has a very strong feeling for beauty, for the arts, for elegance. Physically, there's often dimples or a cleft chin. There's almost always a big smile when Libra is strong in the chart. How many people will admit to being a Scorpio? Okay. These are some of the deepest feelers of the zodiac. I think any word that you say with Scorpio could be prefaced with deep. They are deeply emotional. They don't show what they're feeling. They often have a poker face. It's a hard thing to penetrate. There is nothing superficial about Scorpio. It is not fun and games. They can have a personality that extends to fun and games, but these are deep people. They're thinking deeply. They become great detectives. They become great analysts. They become great researchers. There's a passion to their nature. Scorpio is associated with sexuality. Clearly, all the signs have sexuality, but because Scorpio is so transcendent, so involved with life and death, they're the polar opposite of Taurus. So Taurus wants possessions, and Scorpio wants to understand the meaning of life and death, whether it's through another person or whether it's through an ideal. They are political at times with a great deal of passion and zeal. They're not interested in trivialities. They don't make small talk. There are really two kinds of Scorpios. There's the Scorpio that crawls on the ground and can really sting you. I translate that into sarcasm. Some of us thrive on it. If Scorpio is in your chart, you thrive on it. But then you have the eagle, who is highly idealistic and soars to great heights. How many people in the room are Sagittarius? And who's the okay. Sagittarius is an easy sign to be around. They tend to be easygoing. They tend to be happy-go-lucky. They're open. They usually enjoy people. They enjoy the out of doors. They enjoy philosophy. They are a mutable fire sign, so restless fire energy. They like their freedom. Sagittarius is often the sign of the bachelor. Doesn't mean that they don't marry, but it does usually mean they need a long leash. They are very frank. If they think of something, it comes out of their mouth. Sagittarius never means to hurt your feelings, but they may inadvertently, just because it comes out of their mouth. I think of any sign that I know, Sagittarius, if someone is going to drop something and get a stain, or if their hem is going to fall down, it's going to be a Sagittarius, but luckily it won't bother them because that's not what they're involved in. I remember a long time ago, I read an article about Beverly Sills, the opera singer, and she was discussing how she met her husband. I don't know her sign and I don't know his sign, but she said on their first date, he spilled the coffee and he tripped on the carpet, and she said to herself, he's for me, he's my mirror image. I'll bet they both have Sagittarius strong in there someplace. It's expansive energy, it's jovial energy. They are upbeat. Negatively, they can be the person who walks into the room and they're backslapping and they're boisterous. And I almost think of the ugly American, that kind of over-the-top energy. The lessons, of course, are to learn tact and responsibility. And when I say the lessons, as an astrologer, we really do feel that every chart can and usually does grow in the course of a lifetime. And so these suggestions are suggestions, but they're really where the person needs to do their work. I think that Sag is usually athletic looking. They're often a big presence, but not always. My friend Eric will appreciate this, but I think that an indicator of Sagittarius strong in the chart is a space between the top front teeth. When I see that, I think probably Sagittarius in there someplace. I think they have two kinds of faces. At this point, I can see them. One is a longish, what I call a horse face, H-O-R-S-E. It's almost the shape of a horse. And the other is just a little round ball on the top of their head. Those are indicators to me that Sag may be strong in the chart, not necessarily the sun sign. How many Capricorns in the room? We are, once again, the workers of the zodiac. You have a lot in common with your cousin, the Virgo, or earth signs. But Capricorn is cardinal, so it is working towards a goal. They are extremely hardworking. They're also ambitious. They are practical, it's an earth sign. They're materialistic, it's an earth sign. But they can see the whole picture and know all the details that have to go into it, and they are willing to do the work of putting all the details in. There's a caution, all the earth signs are cautious. There's a cautiousness with Capricorn. They can be quite self-controlled. They can be quite self-disciplined. If Cancer is a mother figure, then the father figure is Capricorn. And where Capricorn is strong, whether you're a male or a female, usually you play a strong father role. Usually the father is prominent in your life as well. Capricorn tends to pessimism. It's something it's one of those lessons that they tend to outgrow, but when they're younger, they can be hidden in their organization, but pessimistic. They often have a wonderful, dry sense of humor. Negatively, they can live too seriously. They can be stern. And they need to learn to be more flexible and to be kind and to play. They really have a lot in common with Virgo. I think Capricorns are very easy to spot, or when it's strong in the chart. To me, they look like skeletons. There's that bony, long look. If you know the British actor Bill Nighy, he has that bony, chiseled face. Ian McKellen has it. Jack sitting in the second row has it, and I know he isn't a Capricorn, but that bony skeletal structure. How many people in the room are Aquarius? Interesting. So it's a very interesting sign. I should have known that, shouldn't I? I find Aquarians to be, well, let's start off with Aquarius is fixed air. So they are, all the air signs are communicators, but fixed tends to be a little bit stubborn. They are outgoing, they're friendly, and they're aloof simultaneously. That has been my experience. Aquarius is a very curious sign. They want to learn as much as they can, disseminate on a large scale. Often Aquarius is in some kind of communication, either career or in their personal life. They want to communicate, but it's not so much communicating on a one-to-one as communicating in a large way. They are highly independent. They are freedom-loving. They have a quirky and irreverent side, so you never quite know what's going to come out of them. They are rebels, they are unconventional, and And they're often attracted to the very old, like antiques, or very new breakthrough ideas. They can be detached. They can dress unconventionally. There's something very unconventional about the Aquarian, who is friendly and gone at the same time. There's often an androgynous look to the Aquarian. I didn't notice that as I looked around, but often there is an androgynous look. They're often slight when Aquarius is strong in the chart. And the last sign is the sign of Pisces. Pisces in the room? I wouldn't have known. Tender, tender, tender. It is the most tender of the signs. Of course, all the water signs are tender. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. But Pisces is tender, and the symbol for Pisces is two fish pulled in two different directions. So they're emotionally pulled in two different directions. They tend to be introspective. They feel unspoken currents. So very often Pisces people, when they're with you, or people with Pisces strong in the chart, feel what's going on in your life, in the atmosphere, in the energy, and they take that in, and it is sometimes quite a lot to take in. They have wonderful outlets in the arts. They are changeable. They're often mystical. There's almost always a devotion to something higher. They love water. Negatively, they can be pulled in two directions, and the emotion of it can be very painful. They're impressionable. They're almost like clay. When you're with a Pisces person, whatever you're projecting goes right into them. Physically, they often have eyes that protrude a little bit. There's a liquid look to the eye. The mouth can be pursed, or the mouth can be slack. I'm going to run through a gamut with Pisces since it's the last sign. Did I cover all the signs? Did I skip some? Okay. Since it's the last sign, I will just say that this is true for all the signs. The astrologer does not know what level the energy is operating on. So a Pisces might be a mystic, attuned to higher realms. A Pisces might use that water, that emotional water energy to be creative. A Pisces might use that energy to be dreamy and to get lost in dreams and really not accomplish much. A Pisces might use that energy and become depressed and do nothing. A Pisces might use that energy and, because they're so sensitive, turn to alcohol or drugs. Every one of the signs can operate at the highest level of that specific energy, but not another energy, that specific energy, or the lower. And that's where the learning comes in. This is the first time I'm using this, and I think it's just magic toy. And it's not working. Oh, I know why it's not working. Thank you. Okay. This happens to be a chart of someone who's in the room, and I will, with her, I have her permission, tell you. But I'd like to show you a few things about a chart. This picture of the heavens at the moment that we're born. All of these squiggles, all of these represent the planets. And all of the planets land at the exact moment that you're born in a 360-degree circle that an astrologer can read really instantly. I can see a 60-degree angle and a 120-degree angle and all the angles, and each one of them has a specific meaning. So that if you have two planets that are relatively together, as in this chart, you have two planets at 4 degrees of Pisces. That's an exact blending of those two planets, and those energies must work together. If you have planets in the 7th house, as you do here, well, I'm not sure about that. Okay, 7th house, you have 3 planets in the 7th house. In astrology, this house here is the 1st, and you work your way around to the 12th. I'm not going to put you through all the meanings because you have enough information in your head. But what I'm going to do is tell you that each one of the planets has a meaning, and the sign that it's in has a meaning, and the relationship that it has, the one to the other, has a meaning. And maybe most important, and what the public sees more quickly than your birth date, is the way you express yourself, and that is always the ascendant. It's what is at 3 degrees of Cancer in this chart. This is the chart of Mary Wallace, and I'll tell you why it's significant. I do not, as a rule, ask people their birth dates. I do not want to do your chart. It is a lot of work. I'm no longer, after so many years in astrology, all that curious about most people that I meet. And the way all of us do, we have impressions of people. But when I decided to do this talk, I said to Mary, what's your sign? Now, let me backtrack a little. I didn't know Mary for quite a while when I lived here, and then we went on the trip to Asheville. And I saw a whirling dervish of organized energy. She was simply a marvel to me. She had a list of what had to be done. She called the restaurant because we were going to be 15 minutes early. She coordinated with Zach, the bus driver. She coordinated with all the places, to say nothing of the individuals that were pulling at her heartstrings to get her attention. She had time for everyone. I couldn't believe the organization. So I was curious, and I said, Mary, would you tell me your sign? And she said, oh, I'm a Pisces. And I went, you have to be kidding. Pisces is the least organized sign in the zodiac. It's sensitive, it drowns in its feelings, it pulls into itself, and you pull out of yourself. And she looked at me and smiled, and she said, oh yes, I'm very sensitive. I cry at the drop of a hat. And I thought to myself, Pisces doesn't cry at the drop of a hat. Cancer cries at the drop of a hat. So I couldn't help myself, and I said, Mary, would you be willing to tell me your birth time and the city and state that you were born in? And she said, oh, sure. And I'm thinking, how does all this protective, sensitive water share that easily? And then I looked at her chart. So let's see if I can help you with this. By the way, my thinking that, Cancer is the sign that cries easily, not Pisces. She has Cancer rising, so it is the filter through which we all see her personality. We all filter out of our ascendant. The style that we filter it with is our sun sign. All the modifications are all the other planets and how they aspect. So if I said to everybody, think about a ball on a beach. Everybody has a picture of a ball on a beach. But what if I said, think about a huge purple ball on a beach? It's a total modification. Each one of the planets in each one of the signs totally modifies, depending on how it is geometrically connected, the kind of energy that you're looking at. So I'm still left with a Pisces, Cancer, sensitive, introverted person who's running the show in an organized fashion. And what did I find but a Capricorn moon? And I don't know if I can highlight it. I'm not doing well with it. It doesn't much matter. The two planets in the 7th house, you see the moon and you see Venus, and you see that they are in exact degrees to each other. So her moon in Capricorn is where she gets all these Capricorn amazing organizational skills. But usually moon in Capricorn does it in a kind of hard-nosed way. Mary does it. Her moon is conjunct Venus. Venus is the planet of how you express harmony, how you express love, how you extend yourself, how people see you. So she does all this organization in this loving fashion, and you don't even realize that she has Mars on the top of her chart. Don't get in her way when she's got a project going. And then I said to her, she's got 3 planets in the 9th house. 9th house is higher education, it's world travel. She's a very young, everything's relative, she's a very young woman. So I'm looking at her 9th house and I said, Mary, I'm going to ask you something personal. One of the planets in her 9th house is Jupiter. It's the greatest planet of luck and beneficence. I said, did you do well in school? I mean, really well in school? And she looked at the floor like a good Pisces Cancer, and she said, I did pretty well in school. And then I said to her, maybe it's too soon, maybe later in your life, you're going to do a lot of travel, but this is a chart of a globe-trotting human being. And I said, Mary, have you done, she's young, have you done any travel? Mary, could you just tell us where you've been already?
By the age of 17, I had gone to Haiti, Cuba, and South Africa by myself, no parents.
I see that I'm really running out of time. I'm just going to run quickly a few more ideas and then I'll come up for air and questions if you have any. We have in-house today the only person who has a birthday, and that is Danny Crump. And tomorrow is my very dear friend Annette Davis's birthday, along with other people tomorrow, but I know Annette personally. And so to Danny and to Annette and to everybody who has a birthday within the course of the year, I would say happy birthday and many happy returns. What many happy returns means is the sun is back in the exact position, the exact angle in a 360-degree circle to the earth at the moment you were born. And that spins out yet another map, which is the generalized picture of the year ahead. There's another expression, it's real popular in New York, it's real popular in California. I'm not sure it's popular, it may be popular in the South, I've just never heard it here. When someone has a good occasion, they get married, they have a promotion at work, they're having a baby, Jewish people say, Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov means, in general, good luck. Mazel Tov, translated, means, may the constellations favor you. The science of astrology goes back recorded history to the oldest civilization that is 6,000 years old. I want to say one more thought and I will stop. I think the most important thing I learned when I did astrology was often people came in for the wrong reasons. Astrology is a picture of human potential. It's an incredible way to get to know yourself. Many therapists use it. Carl Jung used it. I think it can be dangerous. I personally, this is where I came from where I started. I think it can be very not helpful to know the future. After 9 years of working with both astrology and then I went on to numerology, which just added to it, I stepped back from a fairly successful practice because I felt it was unethical and unhelpful to tell people things that made them hold their breath and wait for something to happen, rather than to use the chart as a way to get to know your strengths, your weaknesses, your pattern. I believe as above, so below. Astrology works. I think it should be used with great care, but it is a beautiful tool. And I guess I've gone just to the minute, but if you have questions, I'm happy to entertain them. Mary, I can lift this out more?
You should be able to lift that out, and if you have a question, raise your hand and I'll come to you so that we can all hear. We got two in the front, two in the front.
We were talking at dinner about this. Is there any contraindication with this and your religious beliefs? And does this label people?
Well, I think any good psychologist is trying to find patterns and strengths and weaknesses, and I just see this as a wonderful tool for that. Astrology has had a very checkered history with religion. Almost every religion has been for it, and almost every religion has been against it. For the most part, most religions today are against it and consider it superstitious. The major reason I think that religions are against it is it seems to indicate that something other than God can tell you what will happen. And people in religious institutions, for the most part, believe and want parishioners to believe that God, I don't know how to say it in English, geschrieben, it's written. God writes the story. Astrology would say it differently depending on whether you're religious or whether you're not religious. Astrology would say the story is written, it's mirrored in the heavens. It doesn't take a stand as to who wrote the story, and I think that's each one of us would come up with a different answer. But if you ask that to me personally, by the time I was in college, I didn't believe in any kind of religion. Working with astrology and then numerology certainly changed my mind. I do not believe that there are, and any religion will tell you this, if you're not part of religion, you may not believe it, there are no accidents. You don't sit next to anybody by accident. You don't get on the elevator with anybody by accident. You don't sit on a bus with anybody by accident. The assignment may be momentary, it may be 2 minutes, it may be 2 years, it may be 20 years. In my book, astrology has shown me there are no accidents, period. I honor that other people truly believe differently, and that's perfectly fine.
What about labeling?
Well, again, if you are a therapist, you want all the tools that you can to understand who your client is so that you can help your client understand who they are so they can work against patterns that aren't working and work with patterns that are working.
I have a person who was
You have to speak louder.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
I know a person who was born on February 19th and considers themselves to be on the cusp of Pisces and Capricorn.
No, Pisces in Aquarius?
Yes.
Pisces and, what's the other one?
Aquarius.
Aquarius, yes, of course. She's, as a young person, she was very outgoing, very receptive to new ideas, to learning things, very easy with people. And as a teenager, she turned into a very introverted, depression-oriented person that has kind of...
Well, charts aren't static. They renew every year. Always the birth chart is the most important blueprint. But planets transit, and the way to put that in English is influences come in. If you've raised 3 children, all 3 of them may be very different, but each one is influenced by things that happen in their life. What happens in their life would be reflected in the chart. But why that happened, off the top of my head, there's no way of knowing. But life happens, life changes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
I've heard the saying, my Saturn has returned. What does that mean?
That every 20, all the planets orbit at different speeds. But Saturn is the great teacher, often the great restrictor. And so astrologers tend to want to know where somebody's Saturn is because it shows you their obstacles. Every about 29 years has to be calculated, Saturn returns. And what it usually means is there's a maturing. Now, sometimes the maturing comes with a challenging lesson, but sometimes it doesn't. But there's a maturing. I remember when Saturn went over my midheaven, which means it affected my professional career, and I remember looking and thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen, what's going to happen? I'm a Virgo, I worry about things. And then what happened was the man that I was working with, who was a very famous astrologer, said, I'd like you, Diane, to work in the office as my partner. And I remember being overwhelmed by the terror of, I'm not ready, I can't do this. I mean, it was my Saturn return, and it was a great teaching for me, but it was a wonderful teaching. I stepped into it eventually. And again, it returns again around 30, 60, 90, because some of us in this house might be close to or passing 90.
I have a question. Historically, in the Middle Ages, there were only 7 planets.
Yes.
And they didn't discover the last 2 till, Pluto, till the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that figure in then if for 6,000 years, mankind, with regards to astrology, didn't even know of 2 of the planets?
As new planets are developed, and as astrologers study them in relationship to charts they know, they fathom out what the meaning is. But you can really know quite a lot about a person just knowing their sun and their moon and Mercury and Venus and Mars and Saturn. You really have a very good picture. Everything else is a huge purple ball. It's not to be minimized, but it is another layer of subtlety, and sometimes the planets aren't discovered because mankind isn't using that kind of energy yet. I mean, we all live in a very different world today than we lived in when we were in our 20s. Different planets emerge.
It sounds like at your exact birth, time and place on Earth,
Yes.
location, that the alignment of the planets and the sun
We call the sun and the moon planets just to be simple. But
Yeah,
yes, they're
but
aligned.
all that alignment, does that ever come back to that exact same alignment as it was during a person's birth?
The only thing that comes back to exact alignment is the sun coming back to your birth sun. When it's in the exact degree and minute and second, that is your solar return, happy returns on your birthday. That's where that comes from. There are times, because the planets are forever orbiting, that I'll go, oh, my Mercury is back into its own position. So what does that mean? Mercury, planet of communication, means probably communication is going to be important in my life in that year.
But as far as the exact alignment of all of that, it probably never happened.
Not in our lifetime, no.
Diane, I think we're going to take our last question.
Thank you so much for your most interesting talk. Do astrologists believe that one's sign is determined by the moment of conception? I was born 6 weeks early, and at age 93, being born 6 weeks early, 93 years ago, could be chancy. Fortunately, I thrived. But if I had been born in February as expected, I would have had a different sign than Capricorn because I was born in December. And does that mean my personality characteristics would have been different if I'd been full term?
Yes, your personality characters. There are no accidents, and there are most certainly no accidents about the moment you were born. There are no accidents in the universe, and I think every religion states that in one form or another. Now, if you don't believe in religion, that's fine. An astrologer would say there are no accidents.
What a statement to end on. Can we give one round of applause? Thank you so much, Diane. I'm sure she'll be around. If you have questions, feel free to come up. Okay, she will be accepting questions, but thank you again. Y'all have a good evening.
What?